Our democracy is not in decline yet. Welcome to Law and Society. Please subscribe. And I want to talk about what's happening. We're now at day 3 of Donald Trump's presidency, and he was giving a sit-down interview with Sean Hannity. And when asked about pardoning violent insurrectionists, Donald Trump called the violence of January 6, 2021, very minor incidents. I would like to remind you that over 140 police officers were injured, among them many with serious injuries that made them stop with doing their jobs. We know that Sergeant Gonell had to stop working because he had injuries that caused his feet to be not fully functional. He testified to that. We've seen pictures of that. We know that Daniel Hodges was crushed by a door, and you could see the video of him screaming. There was Caroline Edwards, who was slipping in her own blood. There was Brian Sicknick, who was bear sprayed in the face and died of a stroke 2 days later. There were 4 other police officers who were there that day who committed suicide because of the insurrection. There was Officer Fanone, who was tasered by his own taser gun, had a heart attack, and was mobbed. And the people who did this, the people who conspired seditiously against the United States, Donald Trump pardoned these people. And to call them very minor incidents, to call the upending of countless lives, many of his own followers who he has now pardoned, who had to go through the ordeal of the legal process, he just brushes it off as very minor incidents. Well, that helps sort of try to revise and rewrite the story of what happened on January 6th. But we all know what the truth is. We know it from the people who experienced it. We know it from Daniel Hodges and Sergeant Gonell and Officer Fanone. And we know this from Harry Dunn. We know this from Caroline Edwards. We know this from the people and the staff who were there on January 6, 2021. We know it from Josh Hawley, who was running from the mob. We know it from Andrew Clyde in the House, who was screaming like a banshee. Republicans. But somehow rewriting that history has now become the central focus, because Donald Trump also in that interview said that they were protesting and it was a civic protest. And you don't bring guns and weapons to protests. You don't form military lines in protests. You don't break into the United States Congress when it's certifying the presidential election in a protest. I wanted to remind you that, and I wanted to bring it back to the truth of what Donald Trump did. And that's why I believe that we are now a democracy which is not in decline, but we are definitely in crisis. We have Donald Trump isolating us from the world by withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accords, by withdrawing from WHO, by essentially talking about, Greenland and Canada and tariffs and trade wars, and essentially isolating America in so many ways that it will have an impact on the economy. Prices of eggs aren't going down, they're going up. He's talked about having legal immigrants who are maitre d's and wine experts, sommeliers, but not about the farm worker migrants who make food production possible for us. So the fact that his immigration policies are going to have an impact on our daily food prices expect that to happen. In this interview, he also talks about conditioned disaster relief, conditional disaster relief, and leaves up to question the future of FEMA, that is a Federal Emergency Management Agency. And what will that do? That will effectively leave poor red states, and red states like Florida, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, states in the tornado alley that are red, and blue states, by the way, at the mercy of state resources. And he's talking about it in the context of California and something to do with water and filling the airwaves with disinformation about, this urban fire being because of the forest floor not being clear, when that is not the case. But he's trying to condition disaster aid to California. Mind you, that California pays into the federal budget 5 times as much as it gets back from the federal government, whereas Louisiana gets more from the federal government than it gives to the federal government. So the fact that he's conditioning relief, disaster relief to California, may not really impact California as much, but it will sure as hell impact the poorer red states, and especially the states that are affected by disaster. And now with extreme weather, we're seeing that places like Louisiana had snowstorms, and they don't have the infrastructure for winter weather. So their pipes will crack and their foundations will start to buckle. There'll be potholes on the roads. But, Donald Trump is not going to help out with that if he's going to do away with FEMA and FEMA funding. We see these lies coming out from Donald Trump's administration. We see him halting civil rights litigations. We see him freezing hires in the federal government, including in the Veterans Affairs hospitals. We see him bringing more state control onto media by keeping his finger on this law, which is a ban on TikTok, but saying, I'm just going to delay the ban for 90 days. And so, yeah, you, TikTok, can do whatever you want as long as I am happy with it. Remember, I can enforce it at any time. And this is a gateway to doing the same with other social media networks. I mean, Elon is going to do his work too. And you see the oligarchy growing with Sam Altman joining the oligarchy instead of trying to compete with Elon Musk. And we're seeing Elon Musk being empowered by getting an office in the White House complex and having access to Donald Trump and the ability to influence policy. Mind you, he's one of our biggest defense contractors. And, you're seeing rollback on sort of defense making it easier for defense contractors to hire and fire people. This is the third day. And he has already freed these insurrectionists, and he's going around rewriting history, calling it a very minor incident. Like slipping in your blood is a minor. Being tasered is a minor incident. Having broken feet, dying from a stroke after bear sprayed, being crushed by doors as if these are minor injuries. So with this, we are seeing the tyrant emerge. We're seeing the dictator emerge, and we're seeing democracy in crisis because Donald Trump's executive orders are going to be litigated throughout the country for years and years, and it's going to go up to the Supreme Court, and whatever those decisions are will determine how deep of a crisis we are in. But we are in flux. There's volatility, and that will reflect in the markets. That will reflect in the stock market. That will reflect in the price of gold. That will reflect in the price of food. Don't expect the egg prices to go down. I think they're already going up. Don't expect your cost of living to go down. Maybe gas prices will go down with some excessive oil production and flooding the markets, but that's not how economy works. That's not what oil companies want if they want to keep up their profits. So, how Donald Trump is going to keep his promises of lowering the cost of living? Well, he just said in Sean Hannity's interview, he doesn't care about the economy. It's just as simple as that. He said it before. Once the prices go up, it's very difficult to bring them down. He's already said it. So that's how he's going to do it. He's just going to forget about it. And that's where we are on day 3. Remain vigilant. Remain careful. And last thing I want to say is, by targeting the bishop who asked Donald Trump to exercise mercy at the inauguration service, Donald Trump has put a target on her back. Donald Trump has now put a target on the LGBT community, specifically transgender people's back. Whoever he attacks becomes the target for his militias, for his stand back and stand by battalion that he has pardoned, who are coming out in droves and making American streets less safe. So stay vigilant, remain informed, stand up for your rights, watch out for one another. Take care.